what has been coming up consistently is the seven deadly sins. And all of these seven deadly sins were introduced and influenced. So when you look at the situation, and it's funny you brought up the glass recycling and all that, because I've been thinking about this a lot lately, because I prefer to use glass. I only use glass. Even if I get something in a plastic bottle, I'll put it in my glass jar. You know what I mean? I'll put it in a glass container. I can't stand all of the, yeah. So, and I was thinking back to the days of the milkman and how they used to leave the glass bottles of the milk, and they would pick up the empty ones, and it was a cycle, it was refilling and all that. It's really simple to look at and how it happened. As soon as they were able to tell you about it has to be sterilized, it has to be pasteurized, now you're denaturing the food. It started spiraling down that way, because this whole thing with the glass, at least the glass can be sterilized and heated, right? With the plastic, it's not reusable. But there's this, it's part of the purity, what's a good word for that? The purity deception, right? It's like people who don't want to touch their own asses because they're afraid they're going to touch their shit. And you know what I mean? Like the OCD that they have perpetuated through these systems of media and like cleanliness is the next thing to godliness, or cleanliness is godliness, right? Well, that's a true story, but the way that they have, just like everything else, they have perverted it, inverted it. The reality is what they've done is it's the shame blame game that is the perversion of everything, shaming us while they project upon us what it is they know can also trigger us, because they are the Hegelian dialect. This is the Stockholm syndrome. They are the villain or the perpetrator. They are the what's the other word? Not perpetrator. Anyway, they're the ones doing the crazy shit, but yet they're the ones pointing fingers. And again, it goes back to the Ponzi scheme and the top of the pyramid, and how, the eye is always watching over you. These are all symbolic of what they're doing and have been. And so, like, they created these, well, it has to be pasteurized, and the idea that if it's a one-use container in the beginning it was because it's a one-use container, that way we know it's clean, which is a bunch of bullshit on itself too, because the one container is actually leaching the toxins and the dis-ease, because over the years you notice that people don't even realize they're still using plastic containers when they buy things, and there's the leaching off of the bisphenol, or even the receipts when you buy something have toxic chemicals that you touch. So all of it, like, technically, the only reason we have even receipts, we can go down that rabbit hole, right, is because of the taxation system, and everybody has to keep track of everything. We are, and this again goes back to, and there was a meme I posted the other day on my oh gosh, I shared it to my stories on Instagram, but it basically was saying the button pusher is the one that, if they realize their power, they just don't have to push the button, and that would take down all these other entities, right? So it's the same thing with the taxation system. We are monitoring ourselves. We are keeping track of the shit for and on us for them to rule over us. And that's some fucked up shit. That's some fucked up shit. So when they're turning around and they're saying, you have to pay taxes. You have to pay taxes on things that have already been paid taxes on. You have to, when you get your paycheck, you're paying taxes on that. By the way, that's voluntary, but we don't have to tell you that. You just keep doing it. Don't worry. We'll take it. Then when you go to buy something, we're going to tax the business owner and you for taxes. And then if you go to want to resell it, we're going to take taxes from you too, especially if you're disclosing it through some app or some, sales site, selling point, even cars. I think about this one, right? I actually have to ask this question. When they sell a car to you, if you've already paid down some of the money on it, do you still have to pay taxes on the full value of the vehicle? Which is always bullshit anyway, because they always upcharge on the paperwork. So you're paying for an upcharge of services, and then there's all these little fees, which are essentially more taxation without any type of, anything to show for it. These fake entities that don't exist are putting more little fee for this, fee for that, like tires, you have to oil for disposal and all this stuff. Are you kidding me? For every single person who pays those little fees, they're making billions and trillions, and it's not going in anything for the environment. It's just all excuses to keep us on the hamster wheel, completely distracted, in survival mode, unaware that our whole purpose to be on this planet is to enjoy life with the God-given liberties of freedom, of movement, to be in happiness. We should not be paying to live on this planet. How many people realize the insanity of that? I was going through my paperwork the other day, and there used to be this woman. Her name was Susan Powder, and people thought she was nuts, but the marketing was brilliant, and it was true. But there was a deeper meaning to the marketing. Stop the insanity was her byline. It was her motto, her tag. Stop the insanity. But I don't think too many people picked up on it even back then. They just thought she was some crazy infomercial person. I think she was into the weight loss, and she lost a lot of weight herself. So she was a living testament. But ultimately, this is where we're at. At what point are we going to stop the insanity? Because insanity and karma are the same thing. It's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Your behaviors are your karma. If you are doing the same and expecting a different result, and you feel like you're getting nowhere, until you make a change that changes those behaviors, you're going to always get what you've always gotten. So going back to all of that, it's going to take people to get back to, private ministerial associations, mano a mano, person to person. Stop allowing the government to put its hand in the middle and act as an intermediary when they're not invited. We're not invited to their club. Why are we allowing them into ours? We could look at it from that perspective. Their club is not open for invitation to the lay people, to the people they claim they're better than. You know what I'm saying? Like, they claim to represent us, but in reality, they're trying to rule over us. The whole time, they're actually getting us to voluntarily comply to their beck and call, their rules, their ideas. They influence us. They don't even force us to do it. They just convince us to do it by way of influence. And also by way of these world stage events where it appears they're punishing people to reinforce why you wouldn't want to do what that person just did. So they set up the stage, whether it's real or it's actually a show, because I think most of it is just a show. All the world's a stage. I believe they put these people up there, and it's no different than the modern day hangings and the beheadings back in the day. They would put the person in the middle of the town and have everyone around, and they'd actually get the people to say, "Yeah, cut off his head." And this is again the Roman Empire bullshit, the circus show, right? The Colosseum. Put him in the middle, and everybody will think that person is such a bad person because they were told the person was a bad person. It doesn't mean they were, but the people are easily influenced. So they'll say this person did that, and they never did it. They're just using it to show people this is what we don't want you to do. Like, rise up against big GOV, right? If you turn around and you try to come at us, which is funny because they're supposed to represent us, but yet they're showing you that they're the ones ruling. Believe them when they show you who they are. Don't try to, fantasize about what they say and they don't follow through with. They would behead people. They would hang people to set the example. If you do this, this is what's going to happen to you. That's how they convince people to do things. That's how they influence, through fear, through violence. That in itself It doesn't save anybody. It just saves them. It maintains their position. We'll take care of you. Boy, this is crazy shit. So the only way it's ever going to change is if we stop complying, if we stop going along with their crazy schemes, we stop doing what they want us to do. You can't win a battle if you're unwilling to call it out for what it is. You know, if you're in battle, if you're in war, and there's a guy in front of you with a gun, are you gonna just, and he says, I'm not gonna shoot you, but he's pointing the gun at you. Are you gonna take a chance and believe him? You know, that's kind of what this is. Are you going to call their bluff? Or are you just gonna, and then I have a video I have to upload about how inmates in prison actually get these mice to become their pets. It's a fucked up story. But essentially what they do, and that's what we're seeing, and this is the psychology of the life around us, is that they will capture it and then they'll throw it in the toilet and let it like wash, to the point where it basically thinks it's going to die, it's going to drown, right? And then it saves it and it cleans it up and it makes it think that you're the savior. So this inmate does this several times. Once the mouse feels like it's safe, it's almost like, it's a Stockholm Syndrome stuff. It's like, throw the mouse in, let it think it's going to die, take it out, and eventually it thinks you are saving its life as opposed to you being the one that threw him in the beginning, that you had anything to do with it. That's where we're at. And it's really sad. With all of this conversation this morning, now I realize why I didn't end up making a video yesterday, although I really wanted to. It got to be too late, and I was going through my paperwork. So the theme around breaking the human spirit has come up over and over again over the past week. And it ties into everything we've been talking about. It's pretty fucked up. And I just wish people to, my dream is, my prayer is for people to wake up and realize they have that power to just stop. And that we all want the same thing. We actually, what's interesting too, is we don't have to like one another. That's another thing that's really ironic. It's like this idea that we should have equity and equality, and it's like, or the racism stuff. It's like, you're never going to take that out. That's just that's a wonderful crutch, isn't it? To act like you have to stamp out all the hate in the world. You spot it, you got it. If you see hate, it's because you got hate in you. Like even the ones that are orchestrating this fiasco, it's like these entities. They hate us. So they want each other to they want us to hate each other so that we don't actually unite. That's like the oldest book this is divide and conquer tactic. It's the oldest art of war tactic they've ever used throughout history. It's repeat, and it's crazy that people don't learn from history. Even if it's fake history, that's one thing that's consistent. Is all you got to do is drive a wedge between the people, the common people, the majority of people, by using a minority. Even the minority doesn't recognize that they're being utilized as a pawn in the game. Again, this is the game of chess, the Ponzi scheme. That they take each individual person and tell them that they've got something wrong with them, according to this group. But they're the ones creating the story. They're creating the story the whole time. It's not even a true story. It's not even what's really happening around us. If it's like that, like I said in my other video, they're telling us about us, and they don't even know us, and they're not one of us. Pointing a finger down, because see, that's the thing. They keep us so divided in this idea that we have to be united. There's nothing saying we have to be united, but I will say this. The more you leave each other alone, you stop in this pigeonholing and labeling and division and these extremisms, these isms, the less you comply and work through that stuff, like the more you're actually focused on it, the less it exists. See, what they do is they amplify, they magnify the minority, the little shit. But the little shit becomes the big shit. So they flip the script. That these things that they have brought to light are actually small things that really don't affect the whole. But what they're doing is they're bringing it out so everybody feels like they're affected, or that it's something that should be important to them. Because, it's this whole idea we're in this together bullshit, and it's not true. We aren't all in this together. On a collective energetic level, to a degree, yes, we are, because we've agreed upon this. The fact that we're engaging in it, that's what makes it important. That's what makes it all together. But if we're not engaging in it, then we're not all in this together. So it's always a choice, a superpower of whether or not we want to perpetuate a system that we don't want, that we don't agree upon, that we don't align with. Why are you falling in line when you're not aligned? Why are you still even fighting or complying with it? If it doesn't align, walk away. Let someone else deal with it if they want to. That's their choice. That's our choice. We always get to choose. And yet we have forgotten that we have free will and choice. And that is our superpower. And they don't want us to know that, because if we were to wake up one day and go, wow, you know what? If I didn't go to work today, the whole system would crumble. Doesn't take much. Doesn't take much at all. You stop monitoring, tracking, and tracing for their benefit, each and every one of us. If your job is a job that basically is to rat out, is to be a snitch, is to be a tattletale on your fellow human, man, that's a sad existence. Especially when it's something that doesn't harm anyone. Especially when it's in regards to money, or, just making the fat cat at the top richer and the rest of us poorer. Modern day Robin Hood would say, if you're in those positions, it's time to flip the script. Just saying. But people don't see how they are pawns in this big game, and that we don't have to like one another. We can respect and honor one another. That's really the human condition, is to nurture. That's our true nature. But we've been conditioned to think we have to be for or against something, that we have to comply or defy, or that we have to go along to get along. That if we're in it together, we have to abide by these rules, do what everybody else is doing. That's just the modern day enslavement of a belief system that's a bunch of BS. There's no truth in any of that. There's no humility, there's no humanity in it. In fact, that's the key. It's about breaking the human spirit. It's about taking away from you the spirit that makes you you. To turn you into some form of a transhuman. This is what that is. You don't even have to become an AI or a bot or a robot. You're still in a human form, but your spirit is broken. Your soul is missing. It's been hijacked. And most of the times it's been given freely, because people are so easily dazzled and bedazzled by all the riches and the glitz and the glam and the false idolatry of these individuals who put on a show. And all the world's a stage. So what you see, you think you want, you think you know, it doesn't exist. It's all on the surface. So where do we go from here? Well, I would say you have to reclaim your power. You have to find your spirit. You have to confront all of the stuff that you thought you knew, because the first thing that happens as power versus force, the scales of human consciousness will teach you, is you have to get angry, because that shows you care. Anger means you got a stake in the game. It means, fuck, I got to do something. If I care so damn much, if I'm angry, it means I need to take action. Now, I'm not saying you take action when you're in the state of anger, because actually you're irrational when you're emotional. Whenever, and they know this is basic psych 101. When you become emotional, you become irrational, and that is when you get tripped up, and that's when you make bad choices, and you make impulsive decisions that impact your life in a way that you look back and go, oh, I wish I hadn't have done that. Or, okay, I shouldn't have done that, but at least it moved me in the direction I needed to go. Because there's always a blessing, a silver lining in it all. But it takes working on you and embracing and owning all the shit you do too. Because what you spot, you got. And if you see the shit and you dislike that shit, that's in you, and you got to work on that. The trigger is always going to be your gift and your key to your liberation, to set you free from the matrix. Your shadow, your trigger, your dark, whatever you want to call it. Your shit shows. And since the world is such a shit show and we can all see it, we gotta clean up our own shit first. And that will liberate us. And it's just the beginning. Because after the shit is cleaned up, all of a sudden your shit starts to shine. Like diamonds. I'm just saying. Everything can be transmuted, uplifted, transformed. You are here to be more than the shit you avoid. And that is actually the key to your passage, your rite of passage in this life that you deserve. We all deserve. And the idea, I'm going to go back to this point, this whole conglomerate of a mess that we're in, that you have a bunch of entities pointing fingers and saying, these are bad people, white supremacy, this, that, or the other. Well, like stupid, ignorant statements is what they are. First off, that's not their role. They're not there to tell us who we should and shouldn't discriminate against, or we should cancel, or we should single out, or we should uplift and idolize, because this is what they do. That's actually the trick. That is the mind control, the governing over your mind. Government means govern over the mind. They are hijacking you to think that's important. That is not important. That is not their role. What is important is you're a good human. And they're guilting and shaming every one of us through these tactics to make us feel less than, to break the human spirit, is to remove your human dignity, your uniqueness, to tell you because of the color of your skin that you're a bad person. Do you really buy into that? Because I don't. I'm not going to buy into these generalizations, these discriminations, the labels. The labels are what they're using as a tool to orchestrate, to influence, to infiltrate, to cause the schism, the divide amongst us, because they don't want trust amongst us. They want us to be pining on them. They want us to beg and plead to them to take care of us, because this is the only way they can maintain their foot in the door, to keep their relevance, is to act like they're keeping score for us, like as if this is some frickin' sports event. Because that's, if you think about it, again, this is the Coliseum, this is the clown circus, whatever you want to call it. But that's what they're doing. They're orchestrating this whole game. We are pawns in their chess game. And so they play referee when they say, oh, this group is marginalized and that one is over, there's too many of them and we need to depopulate the world. Do people just not hear what they're telling you? They're telling you who they want to get rid of. They're telling you who you should want to, criticize. And you should demonize them, when in reality, the ones we should be demonizing, because they are the demons, are the ones telling you this. So they love, and feed off of this shit. If they were doing what they were supposed to be doing, there wouldn't be all this negativity. There would be positivity. But see, do you notice? They only highlight the negativity. They only point out what is wrong in the world. When was the last time they pointed out something good? When was the last time they did something good? When was the last time they did what they said they were going to do? When was the last time they did something for me and you? These guys, these people, they do what they want to do. And when they point a finger at us, they're behind the scenes just laughing, going, see how we got them to do what we wanted? We didn't even have to. The hidden hand's not even getting dirty. They've got us tracking and tracing, monitoring, and telling on one another. That's disgusting. That is not humility. That is not humanity. There's no honor. There's no respect. That's all disgrace. And they love it. You know why? Because they have infiltrated the 7 deadly sins. You don't love your neighbor. You tell on your neighbor. You covet your neighbor's wife. You know, like all the deadly sins, sloth, greed, lust. It's disgusting because everything they tell you you shouldn't be doing, they hope that you do because they know the psychology. Do as I say, not as I do. They know the psychology of tell someone not to do something, and just like the kid the child you were once told, don't touch the hot stove, and what did you do? Because you were told not to, you had to find out why. Anytime they restrict something, they anticipate being able to punish you for it when you do it. So all these rules, regulations aren't to keep you safe. It's to be able to keep you in line. It's fucked up. Keep you in line because if you do wrong, it's easy to penalize and keep you in line, punish you. Or if even, people get traumatized by watching someone else get punished. So of course they'll see someone punished and they'll have the fear in them. And then they'll see somebody do something that person got punished for, and they'll police that other person because of the fear they had from the trauma of witnessing it before. And this is why we're where we're at. It's because they witnessed it. They don't want to see it again. They got to keep their little comfort zone. But again, I go back to, they created such a system that the people get off because that's the trauma bond on seeing someone else get punished to where people cheer it on. It's like, what? How did we get to that point? That we get off on the idea that someone's getting punished and yeah, you deserve to be punished. Never quite recognizing that whatever they're being punished for doesn't harm or hurt anyone else. It's probably something stupid. The prison system is a corporation. They make money off of us through the government. Government's throwing money every which way to things that are against us, not for us. All the rules and regulations, the unlawful things that are on the books that are not even humane, are about supporting the upper echelons, the corporations, which is what we are under. Wow, there's just so much to unpack with that one. And so remember something, that from the moment we're born, we're cast into the system. You remember the caste systems, hierarchies, depending upon your family, your bloodline. It determined if you were a serf, a feud, or you were a royal line, like all these labels. And here we are again. And it's no different than before. Keeping up with the Joneses, doing better than the Smiths. Like all these old, combative ways of survival. As if there's not enough in the world for all of us. Put people in a really condensed, concentrated environment where they have to fight for their lives. And I'm talking about just moving into big cities where you don't have a lot of space. And ironically, in those big cities, you pay more money for real estate. And it's like, what do you prioritize in your life? What are you fighting for when you're doing that? See, we have forgotten because so much has happened throughout history. We've only really adopted what we've been told. And the education system is designed
by the prison system. The same setup. From the moment you're born, you're indoctrinated into the system of proving yourself worthy because of religion. You were born of original sin, which makes absolutely no sense. But you can't make sense out of nonsense. We were never supposed to be in government education systems. But see, that was part of the taking the man and the woman out of the home, creating dual income homes and families to where nobody is there to actually raise the child. Or how is the stability? So they offered, oh, we'll take care of your kids, we'll teach your kids, because there used to be schoolhouses and they weren't run by the government. And so ultimately, this breaking of the human spirit, people have lost sight of the real role of these individuals who are supposed to represent us. It's more than obvious, it's glaringly obvious. You don't need to be hit over the head with what's going on around us. See, this is where they are revealing themselves. If you pay attention and you notice the spells they are casting. See, the entities antagonize, and that's how they monopolize. They poke and they provoke us like this as a sporting event where you need to choose a side, which is the biggest lie. See, the only way to keep their foot in the door is to act as if they're keeping the score, the referee. But in reality, they're the ones who are antagonizing and provoking all of it. The hidden hand doesn't even have to get dirty. All they have to do is tell you a story. And that's what this is. Everything is a story. And you get to choose if you support, engage, and participate and actually reinforce that story as your own. But if you go the road less traveled, as we say, and choose yourself and recognize your own power, reclaim that, then you get to be the star of your own show. The story becomes yours, written as you want it to be told. Not playing into these games, because they're in the business of keeping you on the hamster wheel, to keep you in the loop of debt, the survival mode. And how's that working out? People are angrier now than they ever have been. But see, we're in the most toxic, codependent relationship we've ever been in with these entities that we claim are our governments. Again, it means to rule over the mind. That's not very kind. And so the spell that has been cast has many of us under the influence, literally. And it doesn't even have to be of a substance. It can be a promise. It can be the hypnotized, mesmerized, all those things. The 7 deadly sins. It's a system of resentment against one another when we should be supportive of one another. It's these entities that have been able to influence us to the point that we actually believe it's us against us. And unfortunately, many have pledged loyalty to their rulers and abusers, and they don't see it that way. But history has shown their goal has always been to break the human spirit. The whole role of government was never supposed to dictate or tell us how to live, what to eat, or regulate all of our livelihoods, our business dealings, our day-to-day life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They were only ever supposed, and what we were under the impression was they were there to uphold our right to choose these things for ourselves. Now the tables have turned. They're telling us what we should do, how we should do it, when we should do it, and pay them for it too. We're paying for our enslavement. They have us tracking and tracing one another, taxing each other, modern day feudalism, servitude. It's all in the languaging. There's no reason we need them, but they need us to need them. Imagine throughout all of history, our ancestors migrated and moved for all the same reasons. But we're not trees, people, and we don't need to stay where we're planted, because we're not planted, and we're not stuck. But the real war is not out there, it's within. It's a battle of the mind, and you need to reclaim it to win.